Well, then I will welcome everybody to the August 18th meeting of the Soquel Creek Water District. We'll have the roll call, please.
Director Balboni. Here. Vice President Christensen.
Here.
Director Jaffe.
Here.
Director Lather.
Present.
And President LeHue.
Here. Next is I don't think we have any remote attendees tonight. So I guess we will, does anyone have any adjustments, like want to pull anything from the consent agenda?
I do.
Yes,
I'd like to pull,
into the microphone, I guess. Yeah.
thanks, 4.6, the special board assignments.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. So now would be time for public comment. This is for anyone who wants to speak on any items not on tonight's agenda. Scanning the room, seeing none. Any board comments not related to anything tonight?
I have one as
Yeah.
well.
Go for it.
So it struck me in the last few meetings that there's been a lot of changes to our the way we determine how we declare stages. And I know it's not the time of year that we normally do this, but it may have some impact on agreements that we do, et cetera. So I'd like to get a review of the history of that and see where we stand now and make sure the board is on board, make sure the board is comfortable with the way we're doing it now. And, you know, our aquifers in transition historically is long-term overdraft, and now we have pure water Soquel. And so maybe the way we've been thinking about things no longer applies. So I'd like to see that it come back to the board.
Can I add on to that?
Sure.
I would just love to also have knowledge of what other nearby water districts are doing. Do they have stages or not stages? If there's other models. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. So then we'll move on to the consent agenda. If there were, other than item 4.6, which will come later now.
I'll second.
All right. Did you get that, Sophie? Yeah, okay. Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Consent agenda is good. So we'll move on to reports. Again, I'll look for public comment, searching, seeing none. District Council.
Thanks, President LeHue. Just a reminder that the end of this month is the deadline for bills to make it through the process and go to the governor's desk, and then the end of September is a deadline for the governor to sign bills. So I know there's been a number of bills and legislation that we've been tracking through this year. In the next, probably my next council's report, will try to do kind of a summary of the ones and where they landed in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's a finance status report and the administration and business services report. Are you going to say a few words about them?
Yes. Leslie is available for any questions related to the finance status report, but hopefully by now most of the information is pretty formatted and you're familiar with the way that information is presented. In terms of item 5.2.2, which is the bi-monthly report for the administration department and the finance and business services, I would just like to highlight a few things in the packet. Just a reminder, we will be having a board workshop on September 1st. I also just want to announce that Pure Water Soquel is being recognized as a project with an award of merit by the Engineering News Report magazine. That was just hot off the presses from about 2 weeks ago. And then again, I did just want to note that we did have 3 seats that were up for re-election during this election term. And on August 7th, the County Board of Elections Department announced that this board election would just move to an appoint in lieu of an election because there were just 3 people that ran. And so just wanted to note that for information on the record. We still are, as I just wanted to let the board know, since it is an item of interest that we're tracking, it is related to the ZEV and the California Air Resources Board regulations related to zero emission vehicles. There was the final regulation order that came out at the end of July. We are still going through what exactly that may mean to all of the agencies, specifically the Water District and California Special District Association's request that water districts be fully exempt, like public safety vehicles, was not fully taken, but they did add some language related to evaluating essential service vehicles. So we're still interpreting that, but I just wanted to let you know that for public disclosure, that the final order and the regulations are out. We do have quite a few recruitments that will be underway, so we've listed that out. And most importantly, from the HR standpoint, we do have news that we did hire a new customer service representative. Stephanie started with us, and we also have included in our packet that Pat Pace, our longtime accounting specialist, is retiring. So that's also to note. And other than that, if there's any questions, Leslie, David, or I are available, as well as Becca.
Good. Okay.
I had something I wanted to point out on the finance status report.
Yeah.
People are using a lot of water in July. I know it's
I know.
early. It's 14% above budget. So just wanted to make note of that.
I noticed that too. Okay, so we'll move on to business items. And the first one is a will serve, and that I think, Bryce, you are going to present.
Yes. Good evening, board members. This item requests board authorization to issue a conditional will serve letter for a proposed residential development at 2600 Mar Vista Drive. This is located on the Aptos Par 3, or former Aptos Par 3 golf course along Highway 1. It's about a 13.8 acre site with 2 parcels that were identified as housing opportunity sites on the County of Santa Cruz housing element. Proposed project includes 495 residential units consisting of 318 affordable rental apartments and 177 for sale townhomes. The conditional will serve letter is an early step in the district water service process and allows the applicant to continue through the county's development review process, as well as work with the district staff to design the water infrastructure improvements required to serve this project. If the project advances and all district requirements are satisfied, staff will return to the board with a request to consider an unconditional will serve letter. While existing district facilities are located near the site, preliminary analysis indicates that water system improvements will likely be required to provide adequate flow and pressure to the project or the development. This will include some new on-site and off-site water mains to provide adequate flow and pressure. The developer is responsible for developing engineering plans for staff review and paying all applicable fees prior to returning to the board for consideration of an unconditional will serve letter. There is no fiscal impact to the district issuing a conditional will serve letter. The applicant has paid the required application fee, will be responsible for all future fees, deposits, and project-related costs. There is a motion to authorize staff to issue conditional will serve, which would allow the project to continue its process with the county planning department and further the design of water infrastructure. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I should also note there is a representative from the developer here to answer any of your questions as well.
I don't see public comment unless you're planning to say anything or just answer questions. Okay. So. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I am confused about the number of units. The memo states 495 units, then 487 total units, and then another time it says 497 total units. Is there something about the units that you're not sure of yet? Okay. I was interested that the packet says the mains that they may need to be enlarged and new facilities constructed, but I was wondering which existing mains are inadequate.
Yeah, it's not that they're inadequate. The development includes 2 6-story buildings, so there's a required amount of pressure to serve structure like that. The mains that are currently fronting that property are big transmission mains that go across the highway and feed the lower elevations of our district. So there'll likely be some water mains from Soquel Drive that need to be brought down to that parcel to help serve that project.
Okay. And would these proposed improvements benefit the larger system or just this development?
I would say it's primarily going to be just this development. But yeah, I think it would just be just this development.
Okay. And will any maintenance and eventual replacement costs fall onto existing ratepayers?
I would say new infrastructure is generally like 50 to 70 years down the line. They would need to be replaced.
Okay, that long. Okay, 50 years. Okay. And I was wondering about the 318 affordable rental units, if they will have their own district monitored meter, or is there a plan for a master meter with like the sub-meters?
More than likely would be master meter for each of the individual buildings and then sub-meter for each of the individual units.
Okay. And then how is the common area and the landscape demand measured? Who pays for that?
The common
Yeah, and
common area landscape,
there's
yeah.
a large common area or a
And
couple of common areas.
Any
yeah.
irrigation of the landscape would be anticipated to be covered by the HOA of the different, I would say, districts or different phases of the development, from the affordable to the for sale townhomes.
Okay, so it'll be paid for by the townhomes and by the rental units? Is that what you mean by everyone?
Yeah, more so the for sale with part of the HOA. The affordable housing component of it will not be, would not technically be taking on the burden of that. So it would be a part of the overall improvements would be facilitated within the HOA of the district for the development.
Okay. Thank you for the answers.
As well.
Okay, Bruce?
So I know this is to my staff, to our staff, but I know that the project's not defined well enough to have an exact number on water use. But on the urban water management plan, there was some numbers put in. What's a rough number on the water use expected from the development?
Yeah, so using the demand factor from the urban water management plan, which I believe is 0.11 acre feet per unit, we estimate it to be 33 to 68 acre feet a year of new water use.
All right. And then just to follow up on the metering requirement for the apartments, I know that, well, I recall that we did a variance with Cabrillo College to allow for sub-metering. What's the current district policy on sub-metering for apartments?
So my understanding is the district ordinance that, is that better? My understanding is the district ordinance for separate metering requires each unit to be individually metered. I believe there are exemptions for affordable housing that prevent that, or provided an exemption for that at the state level. Yeah. I think also from a feasibility point of view, individually metering the apartment complex is pretty challenging.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right. So it's the state has determined, Josh, that sub-metering is allowed for apartments.
That's correct. There's specific triggers for the types of affordable housing projects that qualify, and the initial indication is this likely is one that would, but we haven't made a final determination on that. We would. If for some reason it didn't qualify under state law, then Bryce mentioned, this may be a situation where staff recommends a variance, but that will be something that comes before you in the future.
Okay. And then just to follow up on that, so state law also exempt ADUs from sub-metering when there's an ADU and they're always on somebody's property.
I believe there's specific requirements, like junior ADUs cannot be separately metered.
Say that again. Sorry, I missed it.
Junior ADUs. So junior ADUs are typically
Small ones.
small ones that are in the existing footprint of the building.
All right.
Can I just clarify that, Bryce, that you said 68 acre feet per year, and that's for the entire 495 units and landscaping?
Yes.
That was the max. It was 30-something.
33.
Yeah, I gave a range of 33 to 68 acre feet.
Carla.
Okay, I noticed, I saw the landscape plan and there's a lot of open space there. I mean, I think there's wetlands, but I was wondering if you had any outdoor amenities and who would be in charge of those. You know, a lot of developments, especially with an HOA, they have make provisions for
Yes.
recreation.
Yes, this is not the landscape. This is just an open space plan. So our landscape plan actually has details into walking paths, a bike path designated for the outside areas and connection to the pedestrian flyover that goes over one, in addition to amenity spaces within all of those open spaces. And so that would all be part of our development and all covered under the management of the HOA for maintenance and long-term longevity for those items.
No swimming pools or anything.
No clubhouse, no swimming pool. So and we're looking to facilitate the wetland area and its surrounding areas as a preservation area, and to keep our walking paths and stuff out of those areas for those reasons.
Oh, okay.
Where's Highway 1? Which side is that on?
So southbound, so on the plan page,
Okay,
on the bottom.
couldn't quite. And then is it near where the bike overpass?
Directly connecting at the Mar Vista cul-de-sac.
Yeah, okay. Well, that not just for them.
One more question. Take advantage of the fact that you're here. What's timetable?
So In working with the county on the planning department, because the zoning and everything was already put in place before we came along and the housing element site was there, and we're matching their criteria of the number of units that they expected, we've gone through 2 levels of DRG back and forth with the county.
What's DRG stand for?
Design Review Group.
Okay.
And we are at a place where we will be submitting an actual building permit application next. In essence, we're getting, pushing forward to those, but we would anticipate that this wouldn't come into place until because of the affordable housing award process, that would be anticipated in 2027. Nothing's guaranteed for each of the rounds. So we would be anticipating, 180 days from the date of the award as to when we could close and start breaking ground. So if it were, beginning to middle of 2027, we would be looking at the end of 2027 into first quarters of 2028 as more of an overall time frame expectation.
And how long is the conditional will serve letter good for?
They're good for 2 years, and there's a 1-year extension for a 3rd year.
All right.
All right, good. Any other questions? Rochelle?
I'm at an advantage because I've reviewed at least three previous, or maybe it was 2, proposals for the same property. So I know exactly what you're doing and what's there.
Good.
I was just amazed. It looks so much different than the last one.
I'm hoping for the better.
Okay.
All right.
No other questions? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion if anybody's interested.
I'll move.
Motion been made? To approve the,
I'll second it.
okay, moved and seconded. And I know that this is a lot for us, we're not used to this many units. But we've got to move it, but it's the way it's going. So, yeah.
The one thing I don't like is the idea of a 6-story building right there.
Yeah.
Because Cabrillo's 5, and it looks like a huge monstrosity next door.
Oh. Well, so moved and seconded. All in favor?
I don't get to vote on that.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
No, I'm yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So now the next item is 6.2, the draft 2026 Community Water Plan Progress Report. Becca, it's you.
There. Good evening, directors. So we're bringing to you the 2026 progress report for the Community Water Plan. So back in 2014, a couple years before I actually started at the district, the Community Water Plan was conceived with the community for the community about the direction, a roadmap to water sustainability. So originally it had the 4 options that the board was looking at to where we were going to get a supplemental supply of water. So desal down in Moss Landing, groundwater replenishment, which turned into Pure Water Soquel, water transfers, and stormwater capture. Thank you. I was like, what's the 4th one? And then we had done updates in 2017, 2019, and 2021. And then there's just been kind of a long gap since then, once the board chose Pure Water Soquel to go forward as our supplemental supply. So at the ad hoc committee, I had brought it up saying, should we do a progress report? Should we do a community water plan 2.0? What do you think the board would like to see? And thank you, Directors Christensen and Balboni, for being on the ad hoc committee and working with me on this. And they're like, we'd really like to see a progress report. And luckily, I got to be at the last board meeting while I was working on this. And so I feel like we really kind of took your comments about messaging that we want to our customers right now, that we're not out of the woods. Pure Water Soquel is online, and we're still working towards sustainability. And so I feel like having that on the front page helped and kind of like right there out in our faces. So I would love to hear if you have any comments or changes or... Oh, yes. So the plan is to, it is a self-mailer. If you noticed on the back page, there's kind of a thing. So it's going to be folded in half and then in trifold, and we're going to mail it to every single customer and not insert it as a bill, because we have a lot of customers now with e-bills. And we want to get it in people's hands and make sure like they see it. A lot of times people don't necessarily open their attachments when you get your bill in email. So it'll be mailed to everyone and also be available on our website to download. And then we'll also announce it in Quick Zips.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Still don't see anybody here for public comment, so I'll welcome them anyway. But any board comments or questions?
Nice job.
I really like.
I feel awkward doing that since I participated in it.
Yeah, thank you both for being in on that. And Becca, I really like the way the message comes across on the first page. And I think it's short enough and concise enough. You know, people don't like to read very much these days. And so to me, with the kind of combination of images and, you know, and text, I think it should be very readable for everybody. I like
Thank you.
it.
Good. Thank you. You're welcome.
But I like it. I'm going to be an Eeyore.
That's okay.
Yeah. So it's very upbeat, and maybe I missed it, but we're a critically overdrafted basin, and by definition, we're in long-term overdraft. Hopefully, out of there soon with Pure Water Soquel.
Mm-hmm.
So where in this do you talk about that, or do you think it's not appropriate for this document?
I would say there is a sentence on the very first page that says, while we have much to celebrate, our work isn't finished. We remain focused on aiding the restoration of our groundwater basin, adapting to changing conditions and regulations, continuing regional collaboration, and providing safe, reliable water for generations to come, as well as our work continues towards basin sustainability by 2040. And that third bullet are two places that I think are meant to address that.
We also talk about it under groundwater management, about basin sustainability.
Okay, well,
We also still identify, Director Jaffe, that Pure Water Soquel replenishes the critically overdrafted Santa Cruz Mid-County groundwater basin. So we are identifying and still utilizing that label of the basin is critically overdrafted.
It's in that green box on the second page where there's like an arrow.
Oh, right, I'll show it on the screen. Right here.
I was strategically putting it in places where I thought people would look quickly. And so like the green box calling it out on that page, on the front page, using water wisely.
so it does say critically overdrafted.
Yes.
Okay, well, I guess I'm an Eeyore. If the other board members don't think that
Well, I mean,
it needs to be strengthened,
No, I mean,
well, it's,
you wanted it to be more like, oh, it's not solved. You know, we're still critically overdrafted and we're
we're in
evaluating.
transition.
We
We are evaluating how it's going to work.
I do have a suggestion that might help. In the Pure Water Soquel box on the front, is now replenishing our groundwater basin. We could put critically overdrafted right there.
Sure.
If that will.
Thing that strengthens the message. I mean, it's beautiful, and I think we look really good with all the accomplishments, but we're not
You're
there.
saying that people might not understand basin sustainability for the way we understand it?
No, just that I think he's saying it's too rah-rah.
That's what I was saying. So But it sounds like I'm an outlier.
Okay.
Okay.
The other piece we could add is by the numbers. One of the key messages we always say is we're one of 21 basins that are critically overdrafted in the state of California.
Yeah, that is one
It is.
other place we
We
could
always,
add something.
it's in every PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, anything that balances the message that our customers get would be good. I mean, like for instance, well, no, it's showing that we're doing good work, but the balance I think is that we have a long way to go still, at least in my opinion on sustainability. Okay.
I'm just wondering if somewhere in the looking ahead, there should be monitoring to
Yeah.
see the effects of
Suggestion.
because that's, I mean, we all want to look to that to see if we're getting what we plan to get out of it. And it is sustainably, I'm not sure how to word that, but in the future, I think monitoring to see how we're doing is really an important part of it.
President Leahy,
Our goal is that optimizing Pure Water Soquel and continue in order to achieve our goal for replenishment of, it says it a number of different places, but I feel like it would be worth saying it again, that the plant is a long-term project to replenish, but it can probably be reinforced in the sentences and throughout.
Yeah, somehow make it not sound like it's a done deal for sure. You know, like it's just like we're doing all the right things, but we still have to monitor and we still don't know for sure, you know, and so have to be careful.
Yeah, I appreciate that too, but I think just repeating it everywhere. So
Well, all I know is that I don't watch the news anymore because of the repeated bad news on the same stuff. And we don't want to make that mistake either.
no.
Because
No, we don't.
I'm like, I'm done. Anytime I see anything that has anything negative to start with, I just throw it in the recycling rather than read it.
No, we don't want to go negative.
Oh,
It's a balance.
It's very positive right now, and just I think adding those few extra things when we ask for more money.
Yeah, well, we are on the right track, but it's true. This is a long-term effort.
Yeah,
And
we're in
we-
transition is the way I like it.
So maybe continue to optimize Pure Water Soquel and continue to restore the groundwater basin, which is what we've been harping on for 40 years, I guess.
Thank you, Ed. It's really nice, and sorry for the Eeyore comments.
no, I think you make a good point.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's just you want to, like whenever I even write anything, kind of see if the tone is right. And if you're getting that little bit more careful message in there, you know, however it's worded. Yeah.
So here's a very silly question. I'm looking at the picture of the tour center. Are the butterflies really on there now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to go by.
Go take a picture.
Yeah.
That's why we put it on the garage, so the garage
like
door, so people can take a picture anytime they wanted.
I like it.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Okay, so that was
With
just,
my red bud,
what, you want to go visit it?
the tree.
The tree, yeah,
I'm going to put a little plaque there, suggested by Rochelle Lather.
you should. Yeah,
We don't want to give all the history. Yeah.
we don't.
See, you're back to the
Okay.
thing where I'm going to recycle it.
All right, so we good?
Yes.
Okay with that?
Yes.
All right, so the next item is to receive information and input on the draft interagency agreement with the city of Santa Cruz. So I think this is a combined effort. So it's Melanie and Josh and Leslie. So a lot of work's gone in, and then Brent's here because he's got perspective that probably no one else has at this point.
Thank you for printing this up as well, so we can take notes.
Thank you. We do have a PowerPoint presentation, and there are copies at the dais. In addition, the presentation will be a combination of myself, Josh Nelson, and Leslie, who will come in and talk at their appropriate times related to more of the business terms that we are working on with the City of Santa Cruz, and then there's also a financial aspect. So as discussed in the staff memo, we have been working on a draft interagency agreement with the City of Santa Cruz. Our purpose tonight is to review the primary business terms in the current agreement. We want to discuss aspects related to the regional collaboration with the district as well as with the city, water supply conditions, operational factors, and also the financial aspects with a water transfer with the city. We also will be going through several of the business terms that are currently at a point in the draft agreement where we would really like one to provide that information to the board and also to get input so that we can further discuss items with the city. And then, of course, tonight, as you can see, this is not necessarily a page by page of a draft agreement, but more focused on policy issues and high-level topics associated with the core components of the agreement. Let me just kind of reduce this a little bit. So I just wanted to focus a little bit in setting the stage related to collaboration. We had a public advisory committee meeting last week and received some input from our public advisory committee members that we're actually going to be bringing to the September 1st board workshop. But there was a question related to collaboration, and I just wanted to kind of share that data point with the board. These were actual sentiments from the public advisory committee members. Collaborative agreements with other agencies and municipalities is imperative. More groups working together in a cohesive direction, cooperating can get us all further. Different agencies all tap the same underground aquifer. Coordination can help protect the resource for all. And then the one at the top says collaboration provides learning. Since 1976, the city and the district have partnered into at least 19 formal different agreements. Again, some of these include the surface water pilot with the City of Santa Cruz that just expired this year. We have a mutual aid agreement with the City of Santa Cruz. We also have source water for Pure Water Soquel, the site use at the Santa Cruz wastewater treatment plant, and the use of their outfall.
I just wanted, just a quick note, Melanie sent me a copy of a letter that I signed back in 2011 wanting to collaborate with the city.
Good job.
It's just 15 years ago.
Yeah. Well, some things move faster than others.
Again, as I had that snapshot in that previous slide, we also just started to expand a little bit. Again, these are just highlights, but while that last slide showed 3, some other ones that we were talking about and have been working on, currently, there's still the Cooperative Groundwater Management Agreement. We have the partner agencies with the Santa Cruz Mid-County Groundwater Agency, a lot of collaboration and work with the partner agencies on anything related to the Mid-County Groundwater Agency and the Groundwater Sustainability Plan. And then I did want to just add, obviously recently too, there's been a lot of effort related to the regional optimization study. That was a report and effort that received grant funding through the Mid-County Groundwater Agency in 2022.
So Melanie, is the cooperative groundwater management agreement, is that where there's a limit on how much groundwater the city can extract?
There are parameters in the cooperative groundwater management agreement that does have volumes associated with both the city and the district. That was done in 2015 as a way for us to do some shared management of the basin. In terms of the regional optimization study, the last report that I mentioned in the last slide, I did just want to take a pause and note thank you to Dr. Haddad, who's in the audience tonight, who's worked with a major component in that optimization study was related to collaboration with agencies working together on shared solutions. As part of his effort, he did interviews with the Santa Cruz Water Commission, Santa Cruz City Council, and of course, as you know, our Board of Directors in 2024. And then again, he's interviewed, did some interviews in 2025. At a high level, again, this is just verbatim coming from the study report, water leaders have expressed optimism that regional cooperation could improve water situations of both agencies. Leaders offered principles of which to base the negotiations on and how we could proceed. And I wanted just to at least highlight those principles again that were captured back in 2024. Principles for the agreement: fair, clear, implementable, long-lasting, genuine, I can't say that word, non-hierarchical collaboration. Each agency retains obligations and freedom to serve their customers and replenish the basin. Cost to minimize rate impacts. No ratepayer subsidizes the other agency. Reflect on community concerns, environmental protection, plus climate resilience. And again, the nature of the agreement and how we put an agreement together. Streamlined, but with an amendment approach. Clear legal definitions, arbitration procedures, sufficient monitoring of water levels and quality, and rapid collaborative decisions on water transfers. I feel like those principles have been ongoing, as well as continuing, at least for, on the district standpoint, Leslie, Josh, myself, and our other staff continued to hear the input from the board at our board meetings and at the dais. So before I turn it over to Josh, who has been working alongside district staff, city staff, and the city's legal representation, I wanted to at least just highlight the draft agreement and the overview of the main points. This agreement is for a potable water transfer from Soquel Creek Water District to the city of Santa Cruz. Our previous pilot efforts and previous agreements have primarily focused on a water transfer from the city to the district. So this is an agreement that would be the district to the city. Again, we would be using the existing O'Neill Ranch intertie. That was an intertie that was built and we have been using for water transfers going from the city to the district, and it can do this direction now. Again, one of the core principles is to support regional collaboration and water reliability while still preserving the district's responsibilities, obviously to the basin, to our customers. And this is not a transfer of water rights or create a city property interest in the district facilities. Thus, this is one of the reasons why we are bringing this tonight in open session to talk more about this and get feedback from the board. How the agreement has evolved, this will be my last slide, okay. And then, as mentioned, this isn't coming out necessarily of thin air. We've been kind of talking about water transfers since 2022 with the optimization study. And Tom, thank you. You just reminded me back in 2011, there has been efforts related to the city and the district collaborating. We obviously know history. We can't completely rewrite history. We also know that there's been collaborative efforts along the way with desal, collaborative efforts with the source water for Pure Water Soquel, and then again, going forward, how can we collaborate? So, tearing off of the optimization study in late 2025, early 2026, we started to meet with Dr. Haddad on the main kind of core principles and concepts associated with an interagency agreement. Those early drafts focused on, securing a long-term water supply commitment. The city had gone through their water supply implementation and identified a water shortage gap. So they were looking at agreements with both the city of like Scotts Valley Water District as well as Soquel Creek Water District. Specifically for our agreement back in April and then in May, you can see that there's been some evolution related to whether it was a long-term agreement, whether we started and we were more comfortable with a 2-year term. We also started to add in some criteria and conditions related to operations, regulatory, customer, and groundwater conditions. On July 1st, I think that was a pretty pivotal moment between the partnership and collaboration with the city and the district. Brent actually came in and did a facilitator edit, try to really look into what the points or issues were, and we had an edit then that really focused on, I think, a little bit of taking the agreement and pivoting it to a long-term regional partnership versus something that was just transactional in nature. It also added some of the water shortage restriction provisions and enhanced the criteria and the methodology associated with groundwater monitoring and reviewing of the groundwater conditions. And then where we are currently is we have some additional clarity on the definitions related to reliefs and or off-ramps associated with the district's ability to provide water to the city. Also, we started to go into more billing. And of course, in any kind of agreement where there's a sale of water, there really is a component related to how much is the water going to cost, how is that cost calculated in terms of a methodology and approach, and then how that could be built into the agreement. So we did bring in Raf Tellis, and Leslie will talk a little bit more about that portion of the draft business terms.
So Melanie, it looks like things accelerated starting in April. And do we have a timeline for when we want to complete the agreement?
We obviously, I think the core principle of our agreement with the city is we want to make sure that we get through a successful negotiation of terms. We want to make sure that it's comfortable. As we know with labor negotiations, sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it can go fast. Sometimes it can go slow. I wouldn't say necessarily that there was a huge ramp up from April. We've been kind of in, Dr. Haddad is here, and you're welcome to share. I think that was the point where there had been a lot of discussions, and Brent felt it was time to put some stuff on paper. And so that is kind of why in April there really was a time. We looked at many different types of agreements. That was one of our efforts was, we shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel in terms of agreement, water agreements, wholesale water done either through agency to agency or agency to private entities is up and down the state and all around. And so that was a lot of the effort earlier was also about what type of methodology in terms of a contract we would want. And then I do think, in April, Brent was like, I think I need to start putting some stuff.
So there's a planning meeting on the proposed schedules on March 1st. Is the hope to have an agreement before that time, that there could be a planning meeting in March 1st, 2027?
The March 1st is more tied to the window of the way that the contract is described is that is when, if we were in an agreement or a contract with the city, there's a stepwise process for scheduling and quote unquote calling for the water. So that's the March 1st. The window of the transfer, again, our operations team also had to work through kind of some operational considerations. The transfer really is typically between April and October. So we would like some early onset of how much water are they expecting. It's tied also to kind of that window within most of California where we start planning under the urban water management plan. We have to do a water assessment and availability. So that would also be about the time that we're looking at our water conditions and the city is looking at their water conditions.
So it sounds like if we don't have an agreement by March 1st of 2027, really it's March 1st, 2028 for when.
Yes.
You don't know which one.
At that point, right now, we have done it. So the contract is, the window of a transfer is April to October.
Right. So there's no time frame. I just want to know how much time as a board member I have to evaluate the agreement and the assumptions in terms of really the protection of the aquifer. That's my primary concern. I'm concerned about other things. I think it'd be great to help our neighbors, and I think there would be a benefit in terms of decreasing what our customers have to pay. Although it's not a huge amount, it is something. But my primary concern is the Pure Water Soquel project was built to stop seawater intrusion, and I want to be able to know that we've evaluated that in light of water transfers. So it doesn't sound like there's any time frame that I have to be concerned about at this point.
I would say my follow-up response to your question is there are things that we need to do before an agreement gets in place. One, the negotiations has to be complete. The contract has to be, I think, approved by both parties. We also have environmental review on this. The city of Santa Cruz has gone forth with doing the CEQA associated with this agreement and the transfer of water. That needs to be done. Again, that would be a precursor to any agreement moving forward. We also have to finalize the components. Again, the cost is also something that we need to really sit down and negotiate with the city. We've not talked about that.
And the quantity of water that we're able to transfer.
Absolutely, and you're jumping to the meat of it, and I'm happy to switch over to
Sorry. Go ahead.
to I'm happy to switch to Josh because those are exactly a lot of the terms included in the agreement. No, it's great.
Yeah, I should mention I met with Brent. Was that yesterday? Jeez. And so I've had a preview of this, so I'm probably ahead of the other board members. I am. You did have a preview? No, I don't want to give it. No, thank you. But I do, yeah. And you've been keeping track. So I hadn't been keeping track. So this has come as hard and fast to me that's this far along. I just want to make sure that I have time, and it's my responsibility as a board member to make sure that any water transfers doesn't jeopardize the
recovery
health
of the basin.
the health of the
Yeah.
primary research.
Josh did just want me to make sure that I have clarity. If we can get to resolution or agreement or consensus on the business terms, the CEQA is done, there is an opportunity that the earliest would be March of 2026 2027 would be where we would work
So
towards that.
there is that hope.
That's our hope. But I think that's really kind of the point to Melanie's setting this up. That's really what we're looking for this evening, right? I mean, if the board is like, hey, we're interested in potentially moving forward, but we don't want to see this start until 28 or whatever date, I mean, that's exactly the type of feedback that we
want.
need this evening, because I think at least at the staff level, the anticipation was, we may get to a point where, assuming the board is comfortable, we could have a signed agreement this calendar year, which could allow a transfer next year. Again, we're not suggesting that's necessarily, a requirement, but the type of feedback that we're looking for as we move forward with the city. So I'm gonna, as Melanie mentioned, cover the business points, and it'll be all the business points with maybe the most important one, the exception, the most important one, which is the finances, and Leslie, of course, will cover that. So the biggest picture business point that's non-financial is just the amount of water that's being transferred. And the initial agreement anticipates 550 acre feet per year during the first 2 accounting years. And then there would be an opportunity, or there'd be a requirement for a meet and confer process and an opportunity for the parties to discuss potentially increasing that. Any increases would be subject to agreement by both the city and the district. On the last bullet point there's a reference to all delivery commitments are conditioned upon there not being an Article 12 relief event. We'll talk about that in a couple of slides. That's sort of an important concept that we built into the draft that would allow us to reduce or potentially suspend water transfers in years where there's adverse effects to the groundwater basin or other situations. I think it's important to think about that in the context of the term. I mean, I think, based on some of the comments we've already heard and, things that we had anticipated the board would be concerned about, we really have tried to structure the draft in a way to give a little bit of ramp up time as the project, continues to move forward and we see how the basin responds. And when it gets to the amount of water being transferred, you really see that in 3 different ways. First, in the amount of water. So, 550 with the potential for more in in future years if it made sense for both parties. The second, that Article 12 relief event provisions, which we'll talk about. And then third, to the next slide, the way we've structured the draft term. And then before I keep going, please stop me. I mean, we really are looking for your feedback, and each of these in some ways are sort of discrete points. And so if you have any questions, comments, stop us and we can discuss. So on the term of the agreement, kind of what I was mentioning as far as a ramp up, it's really, again, depending on when the agreement is signed, essentially a 2-year initial term with an opportunity for either party prior to June 30, 2028 to give a 1-year notice to stop the project. So in some ways it's sort of a pilot. After that period, and assuming neither party has done that, then there would be a 5-year period where during from 2028 to 2033, the district would have the ability to send a 5-year notice of termination. After 2033, at that point, our position has been that we probably have a pretty good idea about how this relationship has worked, and at that point, a longer-term commitment by the district may be more appropriate. And so for any termination notices after 2033, up until the expiration of the agreement, it would be a 10-year notice. And then as a note on the last slide there, the agreement would sunset in March 31 of 2075, absent further increases. Just to talk a little about how the mechanics of those 5-year termination notices would work, we provide the notice and then we're on the hook for the period of the termination. So 5 years for that interim period, 10 years beyond that. So the mechanics of how water deliveries would be handled in each year, we already kind of covered this. So there would be a meeting in March 1st, which would be anticipation for the accounting year, which would start the following April 1st. By March 15th, the city would provide a request for the amount of water in the schedule in which they would like to see it. By March 30th, we'd finalize that schedule, and then water deliveries would, as mentioned, start April 1st. The city can always request up to the maximum, but there's no requirement for them to request any water in any individual year. Just sort of foreshadowing an issue we'll talk about on the financials. It is possible for us to structure an agreement where the city has really an obligation to take water, or they pay for it whether or not they take it. We have intentionally not built the agreement that way because we'd like to not create an incentive necessarily for the city to take water in years when they don't need it. So, I think the point of this slide is just really emphasizing, what does that up to 550 mean? And it really is intended to be a maximum amount. And while the anticipation in the agreement is that we would provide up to 550 if requested in each year, there are recognitions in the agreement that there could be situations that arise that prevent us from doing that. So it could be the Article 12 relief events we talked about. It could be situations where the plant is offline for a period of time, and so just from hydrological conditions, it's impossible for us to deliver the entire 550 in a compressed time schedule. Those sort of eventualities are built in. In addition, there's some discussion in the agreement about what would happen if we return to a stage 3 or a stage 4. And the agreement clarifies that in those situations, the city would be subject to essentially equivalent restrictions that are applied to our customers to ensure parity. Next slide. So this a little bit more in depth in the Article 12 relief events. I think Melanie has on the tile there's safety valves or safety levers. I think that's a really helpful way to think about this. What they are, and I won't read them, I think they're on the slides, is a series of conditions that if they occur, they trigger a process to require a conversation between the parties. So if we have an adverse event, there's an obligation for us to meet and confer and see if it can be resolved. If it can't be, resolved, then the district has the ability, to temporarily reduce or suspend water transfers, and there's an equivalent reduction in the fees that are owed. I think again, it's important to note that this provision exists in addition to our ability to opt out of the agreement. And opting out of the agreement isn't necessarily intended to be a substitute for this, right? It's a recognition that there may be, even in a long-term relationships, short-term situations that arise that require some adjustments between the parties. Next slide, please. Yeah.
Just that the two errors that are being shown, the next two slides are just going to go a little deeper into, those topics.
Thanks, Melanie. So I mentioned this one a little bit in the last slide, but just to provide some additional information. So if there's a situation where we declare a water shortage, then that triggers a relief event. And we have the ability to impose restrictions on the city equivalent to those that are imposed on our customers. The fixed fee won't increase, of course, mid-year, but the variable fee would increase proportionally to what the increase would be based on which stage we're in. And then on the Sigma and GSP issues, first, the agreement requires annual reporting by the city and district about just how the groundwater basin is doing. And that reporting needs to be made to this board and then to, I guess it'd be the Water Commission or the City Council. And if there are undesirable results exceeding 2 years, that's automatically a Article 12 relief event that would go through the process I walked through a couple slides ago.
I think in the top two bullet points just identify that we are, obviously not out of the woods, so there still is a criteria to meet the state's mandate. So we still will be incorporating Sigma in the groundwater sustainability plan and the concepts and ongoing monitoring. There is also a point in the draft agreement related to the 2015 Cooperative Groundwater Management Agreement being superseded by this. we can definitely go into more details on that if there are questions.
And that's actually my last slide, but be happy to answer any questions on the deal points, not including the finances. All right, thank you.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the pricing options and the cost of service study that we had Raftellus perform for us. Once again, I realize that basin sustainability is our primary goal, but other ancillary goals are, cooperation with our partner agencies, our neighbors, helping neighbors in times of drought, and anything that we cost share in something like this is money that our ratepayers or customers don't have to pick up in their rates. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the cost of water and our pricing options again from Raftellus. They took a look at the cost of service to provide this water from Pure Water Soquel, and this is similar to a cost of service study that they would do for Prop 218 rates. This is not subject to Prop 218, but the methodology is quite similar. They take a look at the costs associated directly with the Pure Water Soquel components, the tertiary treatment facility, the advanced water purification facility, and the SWIP wells. And so they looked at our O&M expenses, what we would pay Jacobs to run our facility, any of our chemical and electrical costs that we pay to run the facility. We also have our debt service and our capital expenditures on any improvements made to those facilities. And those all go into what we directly pay for Pure Water Soquel. So they took those costs, and to those they added the extraction costs for the water that we pull out of the SWIP well, or for the water that we pull out from our production wells to be able to send to them. And that's primarily going to be, pumping power and pumping costs. And then we have our water transmission costs, and that's on top of the other two components. And that's the cost of the O'Neill pump station. That would be power to that facility as well as maintenance to that facility and the intertie. So those are the costs that they all pulled together to determine what the pricing would be for this wholesale water. What they did next was they took a look at some pricing options. How would they configure that? And that's similar again to how we do it for our customer-based rates. They took a look at a fixed component, which would be similar to what we would do on a monthly service charge for our customers. It's fixed, they pay that regardless. And then the variable component, which would be like the volumetric charge, that would be dependent on how much water that was sent to the city of Santa Cruz. So they came up with 4 options that we could consider. The first option is the take or pay option. And on this one, the city could take up to 550 acre feet a year. They wouldn't have to take all of it. They can take anything from 0 to 550. But they would pay as though they took the full 550. It would be a fixed annual cost regardless of whether they took the water or not. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a great deal for the city, but it was one of the pricing options we looked at.
More water, yeah.
And so just to add in, it actually is relatively, I would pretty common in these types of agreements just because it provides certainty to the wholesale agency. But it isn't our recommendation, just because of where we're at with the basin sustainability.
So the other options they looked at were a mix of fixed and variable. So option 2A is a higher fixed charge and a lower variable cost. So that's kind of like we'd get 60% of our revenue or something like that from the fixed component, and then the variable would be the smaller component of revenue.
So is that 60% of the water that they take?
No, that would be 60% of the revenue need at 8,500 acre feet.
If on March 1st, or whatever the final date is that's finalized, they say this year we think we'll need 400 acre feet.
They would pay the fixed charge regardless.
Okay.
And then they would pay volumetric for what they are going to take.
They actually take.
Yeah. And that's the same for both options 2A and 2B. But one has a higher fixed component, one has a lower fixed component. And I said 60%, that's what we have on our customer side. That's not necessarily the cost allocation that they did for this. That was just an example, yeah. So they could take anything from 0 to 550 acre feet. They'd pay a fixed component, and then they would pay a variable component for the amount of water that they take. And then the option 3, or the last option, is like a rollover or a banking option, similar to your cell phone minutes. If you don't use them, they roll over to the next period. So they could take 0 to 550 acre feet, but what they don't take in year 1 rolls over to year 2. And there again, that's based on a variable amount with a fixed component.
Just like Josh mentioned, related to option 1, the take or pay, option 3 is one that would provide, fee recovery, as well as maintaining the water that they're purchasing. We didn't really feel that option 3 was an option that fits where we are currently in our situation. So again, we wanted to present that Raftellus provided a suite of 4 different options, but really staff is wanting to present more and is recommending option 2B to further describe how pricing and structure could be within this agreement.
It's the most conservation signal.
So the next slide kind of shows the breakdown of the cost per acre foot of the 4 options that we just discussed. This one says option 1, 2, 3, and 4. It should be option 1, 2A, 2B, and 4. But, or 3, I mean. But you can see where the total unit cost per acre foot is the same for all of them. It's about $8,500 per acre foot. And that's based on those cost components that we identified, the direct costs of Pure Water Soquel, the extraction costs, and the transmission costs. But it's broken up in various ways. For the take or pay option, they would pay $8,500 an acre foot for 550 acre feet, regardless of what the amount of water they actually took. Yeah, so option 2 is the higher fixed fee and the lower volumetric fee. So they would pay $6,500 an acre foot for 550 acre feet, and then $2,000 an acre foot for the water they actually take. Same with option 3 or option 2B, but it's a lower fixed charge and a higher volumetric. And then the banking option is the same rate as option 2B, but they could have rollover minutes. So the next couple of slides that we're going to look at real quick.
Stop you there?
Oh, absolutely.
So the base fee, back a couple of slides, it had debt service, capital expenditures, pay and go, and O&M expenses, fixed and variable, showed up in the water extraction costs as well as in the direct costs.
Right.
So so the plant is, pick a number, 140 million. And so how does that cost of the plant enter into the base fee? Is it
The debt service. Right. Because obviously we wouldn't charge our customers for something that we built at no charge, which was grant covered, right? We would only
Wasn't it
bill them.
grant covered?
No, we would only bill them
I see. So
for the
you're not
amount that
charging
we
for the
either had to
grant-
pay.
you're not charging for the grant portion.
Right.
You're charging for the debt portion.
The debt or what we have paid out of pocket that's not covered by the debt. That's what we're charging in direct costs.
And then the O&M expenses, they show up in extraction and in direct costs.
Yep.
So how's that? Explain that one.
So our O&M expenses for the direct costs are primarily the cost for Jacob's contract, plus the AWPF chemicals, power, all of that kind of stuff that's not covered under the Jacob's contract. That's all direct costs for Pure Water Soquel. The water extraction costs are our pumping costs to pull 550 acre feet out of our production wells.
Gotcha.
And the transmission costs are the power to run the O'Neill pump station and the intertie maintenance.
So, yeah, these are all justifiable.
Yeah. And they don't roll dollar for dollar into this based fixed fee and variable fee. That's just all of the cost. Those are the cost buckets that are all combined in the pie. And then they've taken and split the pie into 4 different options.
So I don't expect the water transmission costs to change over time significantly. Maybe a little bit.
It's a variable, if they take 50 acre feet, that's going to cost less than if they take 550 acre
Debt
feet.
service, that doesn't change.
That's static. That's static. That's a fixed charge.
And capital expenditures, it doesn't change.
That's pretty much fixed. So you're very,
The fixed, if Jacobs wasn't the operator, that would change if we had a different model for that.
it would still be primarily fixed. We'd still have to staff.
Right, but the amount would change.
Right. It wouldn't be the cost of the
So
Jacobs contract anymore.
The thing that will change over time mainly is the O&M expenses.
Mm-hmm.
That's because power will change over time.
The cost,
Is that the biggest part of this?
Power and chemicals are probably the biggest component of our operating costs, except for the Jacobs contract. Yeah, that's all in there as part of just an
Just trying to
turnover of product.
get a relative
I think
size of these different components.
I think I would say that the capital expenditures, not necessarily fixed, but we would have to go out. We're assuming, again, if there's in the years forward, if there's infrastructure improvements at either one of anything associated with Pure Water Soquel, if we decided to do some sort of enhancement project on a treatment, we want to make sure that that's encumbered into this cost and that's just not burdened by the district, but it's included in the formula.
So I have a question.
Good. I'm just asking as I go along.
Well, I am,
Forgive me if I'm
on,
from asking.
no, you weren't. I just thought I'd jump in there. I just
There was
made
a
it.
chance, right?
I just made it. I think there's some confusion for me on the slides 17 and 18. And what it is the options, okay? I think they need to reflect what was on 16, the same options, and not be named something different, especially on 18 where it says option 3, drought interval.
Yeah, that's that rollover.
Yeah. And I was like, what does that mean? Yeah.
These are Raptellis' slides. And so, that's the rollover, option 3.
Okay. Yeah, the naming needs
can
to stay
definitely
the same
change
because
that.
I start thinking.
Yeah.
And, you may say the right stuff, but I'm thinking because I'm looking at that.
I would go ahead and just look at option 1, 2A, 2B, and 3.
And then on 17, you only have option 2.
Yeah, and it should
And then you have a base fee, which probably will be different for 2A and 2B, right?
Yeah, option 3 is actually option 2B.
Okay.
Option 2 is option 2A. Okay. And option 4 is option 3.
Yeah.
Okay. And option 3 is it says drought interval, but that's the rollover.
Uh-huh.
Option, the third one there is option 2B. That's the one that staff feels is probably the best option that we've looked at so far.
And then I know you're just trying to compare apples and apples. So you're looking at this as if they ask for 550 every year.
Right.
Yeah. So if they ask for 400, the base fee would be less.
No, if they ask for 400 acre feet a year, the base fee remains the same per acre foot. We take 500.
Oh, I see. It's per acre.
Take 550 acre feet, which is what the agreement is for. and we multiply that by the base fee.
Okay.
3,300.
'Cause I was thinking the base fee was just a base amount.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
All
that
this is-
becomes their fixed amount that they have to pay us annually, whether
Probably
they take
all of
water
them
or
should
not.
have said per acre foot. I know I suggested that for the
Yeah.
total, but just because the squirrels in my brain went away and came back after I talked to you about them.
And I think the next couple slides show some kind of examples of what it would look like for 0 or for 400.
And I will point out that we're still working on the rates. This isn't hard
yeah.
and fast. This is just
This is for
This is
comparison.
preliminary, yeah, just for comparison. But yeah, you take the base fee fixed and you multiply that by the 550 acre feet that we're agreeing to in a contract.
Okay.
And then the volumetric fee is multiplied by the acre feet that they actually take. Except for option 1, the take or pay, they pay $8,500 an acre foot times 550 acre feet, whether they take water or not.
So just to make sure I understand it, so for option 2B, which is the staff preferred option, we're talking about a base fee if the agreement's for 550 of somewhere in about $1.5 million.
About 18, 19, about 1.8, 1.9 million.
Oh, I didn't,
So
I didn't multiply.
If you go to slide 18,
If you go to the next slide, slide 18,
Right.
this shows you the minimum amount that we would get under these options.
Right.
And this is 0 water sold. This is just your base fixed charge. Okay? The take or pay option is going to be the same because they're paying $8,500 an acre foot times 550 acre feet. So that doesn't change. Your option 2A is 6,500 acre feet, or it's $6,500 per acre foot times 550 acre feet. And that's the minimum that we would get annually. And there's a cost escalation factor here, obviously. Every year, those rates would go up slightly. And then option 2B,
It looks like it goes up on the 2A, but not on 2B.
Right.
that might be just a
that
typo
they may
from
not have
Reptiles.
added the cost escalation on 2B. There should be a cost escalation on 2B and option 3, both.
Yeah.
But that is basically that 3,300 acre foot times 550.
So just to put things in perspective and see if my memory's right, our total budget income is 30 million-ish?
Or across the board,
Well, just without this.
Yeah.
I just want to know.
yeah,
what this
you're
is.
looking at about 28 to 30 million.
So we're talking minimums of 5 or to 10%.
Yeah.
With
You could be,
2B.
yeah.
Okay, and it goes up if more is. Okay. All right.
Now, if they take water,
Yeah.
that obviously goes up. And it would be silly for the city to agree to this contract and then never take any water.
Yeah.
So, on the next page would be an estimate of what we could get annually. Option 1, again, is the 8,500 acre feet times 550. That's the same numbers as you saw on the prior page. But option 2A is giving you option 2A and 2B are giving you some options, assuming that the district takes that the city takes 400 acre feet a year. So you can see where you're getting between 4.4 million with 400 acre feet of water sold. And then option 3, of course, is your rollover, and that assumes 450 acre feet a year for 4 years, and then a rollover of the unused portion for year 5. So that one's kind of a variable, yeah. So, we could only bring in a couple of million if they're just paying the base fee and not taking any water. Or we could potentially bring in, 3 or 4 million, perhaps more, if they're taking 550 acre feet of water a year. But that's,
So if it's 3 or 4 million, it's an increase in income of over 10%.
yeah.
Would definitely affect rate increases. Wouldn't be as necessary, I would guess.
So So how does it jive with, we're doing a water transfer right now with the city of Santa Cruz of 600 acre feet, isn't it?
I'm sorry. Can you say the question one more time, Carla?
Yeah, do we have an idea of what that costs, what's that costing, and if it has had any impact on our aquifer?
I don't think we've sent 600 acre feet a year to the city yet.
We do have an agreement with the city as part of getting the source water and the land was to, when we took out their tertiary facility, that we would pay back the water from their not using that. So that was just embedded into an agreement related to the land lease and the use and source water. The benefits of the transfer is we're paying it back, and then the impacts associated with how it's affecting I think the representative monitoring points, or is it having an impact on the coastal monitoring wells? We are seeing, as Cameron Tana presented in June, that had 3 months of the water transfer, which started in March. So there was some data associated with the recovery of the basin, including that water going to the city. And again,
What's the
months of
volume
data?
so far?
the volume total, do you know what the exact volume is to date? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see.
We've been tracking the water, we've been exchanging back and forth with the city. We've taken some water from them and given some to them over the last couple of years. And right now, for the transfer that started in March, we're at about, I don't know, I think 1 million gallons. So I think we're in like the 110, 120 million gallons transferred so far. But the amount we owe the city currently is about 63 million gallons as of, I think, the end of July. If we continue to transfer at the rate that we've been transferring water to the city, we'll be even with them in October. Early October, late September, we won't owe them any water. So,
And the total is approximately, if I convert that to acre feet, is somewhere just over 600 acre feet of water.
How much have we sent so far?
well, since March, we've sent around 120 million gallons. But there's been a lot of transfers over the last 4 years or so, which we have a big spreadsheet tracking all of it. So I'm not sure what the total transferred to them is, including all the little transfers over the last couple of years.
That's
Since you're
The
up,
magnitude of that is similar to what we're thinking about.
It's very similar. It's actually,
Yeah.
it's funny because it wasn't the original intention, but it's always been, anytime you have an exercise like this, you want to gather information. And there's been water quality investigations going on and coordination efforts with the city. But it was an opportunity for us to see how does our system react in the highest demand periods. And it's been working well.
It's through the summer.
Yep.
so since you're up there.
Yeah.
How is that exactly done? We extract from some wells and then put into the intertie?
Yeah,
'Cause we
well-
can't give them the water directly.
Right. So there's a couple of factors in that, and we have our new pumping goals set by M&A that we're changing some of the ways we operate wells to make sure we're extracting more water out of certain wells that are benefiting from pure water. And so we're making sure to strategically pump to, take out the water where it's being put in. But it's not like the water comes from a specific well. So our transfer station is at our north end of the district, and we're able to transfer water from sub-area 3, 2, and 1, kind of all the way back and forth. And there's different operational scenarios that we kind of have to move water in different directions. So it's not coming from a certain set of wells, but in our overall production, we are closely monitoring our pumping efforts to make sure that we're in line with the pumping scheme that M&A gave us.
Right, okay.
So it's increased pumping in
Strategically increased
strategically
pumping,
increased
yeah.
pumping. Yeah. in
Which we would
those
be
areas.
doing with the transfer or without the transfer.
Yeah, but in general, it's pumping more from closer to where the SWIPs are.
That's correct.
Okay. Makes sense. And then 1, 2, and 3, we have a 4, right? But
Yeah,
we're
we
not
don't,
interconnect. We're not
yeah, we
interconnect.
send water to 4, we don't pull out of 4.
And that's Seascape and,
Well, no, that's, the sub-area 3 is San Andreas, Bonita, where we're building the Chrome 6 plant.
I see.
Sub-area 4 is like
The Selva.
Selva and down at Cannondale Sol, so that's all gravity fed.
I see.
And then in terms of the cost, have you noticed, has there been are you able to take the cost, the increased costs from this extra delivery? Because we have our own
Part of the,
water consumption, and then we have that.
Yeah, Nick was able to provide the pumping costs from the O'Neill pump station.
yeah, so what we owed Santa Cruz was just gallon for gallon. But part, yeah, we're paying for the power right now to send that water.
Right.
But the cost of pumping O'Neill water to the city is realized within the agreement. In the power and chemical and operational costs.
Okay, so you have a pretty good grip on that.
Yes.
So, okay.
And so
Thanks,
just,
Nick.
just to kind of get a temperature gauge here, are you guys thinking that you kind of like the option 2A, 2B configuration a little better than the rollover or the take or pay?
Yes, 2A or 2B.
98 degrees for me. Yes, for temperature reading.
You're,
That's for
you're at 90,
temperature
you're 98 degrees? Okay, I'll note that.
So,
So livable.
so I have another question.
Okay.
As a finance
2B.
one too. And that is, so there's these 4 options of billing. And then assuming that if it's constant, then if they are constantly going to order year after year 500 acre feet consistently, then that would point to one of those options. But if it's going to be pretty variable, especially looking forward into the future when we won't even be around here, but what would be the most adaptable to a extremely variable water ordering system?
Right, right. And if they were going to take 550 acre feet a year every year, no question, they absolutely max it out every single year. The one that's most beneficial to the city would actually be the take or pay, because the annualized cost per acre feet under that program is 9,270. That's the lowest cost to the city per acre foot. If you look at slide 19,
The last column.
that last column shows what the cost to the annualized cost to the city actually is. That would be the lowest cost per acre foot option for them, would be take or pay, but that would be predicated on them absolutely using the full 550 every year.
See that?
I have a question about how much could be changed after 2 years in the agreement. I mean,
Well,
You
we're
can-
going to have to go through a cost of service rate study periodically.
okay,
This isn't, just like we do with our customers' rates, we're going to have to go back and do this every 4, 5, 6 years.
It's not a 218 process.
It's not a 218 process, no.
but I think, I'm going to guess the temperature of the board is that nobody wants 1 or 4, and that more likely the one that has the least encouragement for them to take as much water as possible. We don't want to encourage them to take a lot of water unless they need it, so.
If I'm paying the flat rate for 550 acre feet anyway, I
Right.
think I would still take it all. That's why I was asking, what is this base fee?
Yeah.
If it's 550 acre feet for all of them, or for the,
You're saying
I'm
do it-
assuming 2A is 550 acre feet and 2B is like 300
They're
or
both,
400.
They're all could be
they're all
All
550
capped
550.
at.
for the fixed part.
Like the
It's all
ability to
assuming
get-
550 acre feet on the fixed.
It's basically saying they're signing up to get up to 550 acre feet. And it's
Capacity.
the readiness.
So I don't see how it's actually keeping them from doing it.
It's kind
550.
Still less money.
Well, the volumetric one is the one based on what they actually take. So they pay the fixed service charge of,
How are they different numbers?
2B has the lowest fixed charge.
Right.
And
How
so
does
that
it
would
have the
be,
low-
so if that would encourage them to, they're not going to pay as much if they don't take the whole 550.
So it's 1.8 million is what they pay up front, whether they take any or not. But if they take the full
Did I
550,
hear it from them?
oh,
yeah,
he's-
but I'm telling you the
he
number.
is correct, that the
Yeah.
1.8, 1.9 million is the fixed annual service charge.
So, okay, so you're trying to get the same number at the end with fixed plus variable.
This is one of those areas where there actually is more than one way to slice this. And there are some costs that you can fairly characterize as fixed, or you can characterize as variable. And so, in 2A, Raftellus has put all of those costs, and you, this is a gross simplification, Leslie will correct me in a second, it has taken all those costs that you could fairly characterize as fixed costs and put them in the fixed fee. In 2B, Raftellus has taken a more conservative approach of fixed costs and put a smaller bucket of costs in that bucket and put more into variable. And the idea there was just, are we going to create more of an incentive to take each acre foot or not? What makes the most sense for both the district and the city? That's why those numbers are different. But if looking at
I'm just, yeah.
slide 19, if the city takes 550 each year, options 1, 2A, and 2B are going to be the same across the board for the revenue. Now, option 3 might be different because the variable fee depends on when they take the water. So that one could be slightly higher if they end up taking more water in future years than they would in prior years.
I don't know if I was the city, I'd want this. I mean, I'm fine with us from our
The one that incentivizes, them to use the water most judiciously is option 2B.
Right. I see that. I'm just thinking, if I was the city, now I'm being Eeyore, and I'm looking at this, why should I be paying the base rate for 550?
Because you need to buy into the capital costs of Pure Water Soquel.
Yeah, we incur those costs regardless. And so being able to guarantee that they'll get that 550, we incur those costs the second we sign the contract. And so, from staff, we do think it's important that there be a base fee that captures those costs that we're going to incur whether they take a drop of water. But then beyond that, then there's a question of, do we want to create an incentive structure for them to take more or less water? And for us at the staff level, it cuts both ways, right? Because if we do a take or pay, the most results in the most guaranteed revenue to the district, that helps on affordability for rates. But we also have to balance that with where we are in the project and how the basin's going to respond. And so that's why I think staff's recommendation would be to put a higher variable rate, even if it may result in less guaranteed revenue over the life of this initial rate period, because it recognizes our countervailing interest in basin sustainability and not creating an incentive for them to take the full 550 whether or not they need it.
Yeah, I want this to actually work for everybody. I want it to be agreed upon. And so I'm looking at it. I mean, at first when we talked about it, I was thinking the base rate was also reduced if they're not taking 550. So now it suddenly comes to me that it's the same. I mean, although I don't.
2B is less than 2A.
Yeah, I know. So how is that based on 550 acre feet?
With 2A, you're multiplying the 500 acre feet by $6,500 an acre foot. That base that base fee of 6,500 an acre foot.
Uh-huh.
With option 2B, you're multiplying that 550 acre feet
By a
guarantee
smaller.
by 3,300 acre feet. $3,300 an acre foot.
So it's half, but then option 1 is the same as, I'm like.
Well,
okay.
option one, don't even look at base and fixed, or don't even look at base and volumetric. You're looking at $8,500 times 550 acre feet. That's what option one is.
I also think that it was just kind of eye-opening when Ralph Tellis presented this, that however you slice and dice this, it was all about the same cost.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, because the costs are the costs.
The
right,
total,
right.
550. Yeah, it should be all the same cost. I'm just, I've done rate studies, and I understand that there's a fine line between fixed and variable. And so that's probably why I'm just, kind of thinking that it's not.
I think it,
So Leslie, a question.
Yes.
On 2B, which is the preferred option at this point. So if basically to enter in the agreement, it's roughly $1.8 million. And then if you don't take any water, it stays at 1.8. And if you take the full 550, it goes up to about 4.7. So it is less to the city. So what you're wondering is whether they're willing to pay 1.8 million
And get nothing.
and get nothing for the option to,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just like our other customers, don't you think?
Yeah, that's the way we do, our rate studies work.
I mean, our vacation homeowners don't use any water, but they pay the monthly service charge as a readiness, to have access to it at any time.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, how do you decide what that is? And how to encourage not to use 550 unless they want to, they need to, and discourage them from.
So I was wondering if you'd considered, since we're going to be doing a 2-year trial, right? A certain rate structure for that period, and then an evaluation, and then.
That actually gets to President Leahy's question I didn't answer, and I apologize, which is, how much of this can we change in the future? What's in the agreement?
Yeah.
And what's currently in the draft is a commitment to a fixed and variable fee structure, with the understanding that those, the amounts of those would be updated over time, likely at the same time we're doing our retail rates, just because of economies of scale, but it's not required. And we would have Ratellis help us. So, what could not be changed based on the current agreement, absent an agreement by the city in the future, would be a move to a take or pay.
Yeah, because
The underlying rate structure.
I could just see, a couple wet years right now as we're undergoing this test, and then a prolonged drought, and the prolonged drought will have a more immediate effect on city of Santa Cruz than our district. So their needs for the full 550 acre feet would change. And so I'm just saying, how do you come up with a rate structure that functionally recognizes that while not overcharging them or without
And that
making them just take our water supply because we've made it so cheap for them.
that would be option 2B, I think, because what we're saying is we're going to ask you to pay 1.9 million annually as part of the agreement that you have access to this water. It's like an access charge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you pay the volumetric rate for every acre foot you actually
So
take.
do I understand it correctly? If this agreement is signed, then they are agreed to pay that 2 times 1.9 because it's a 2-year agreement, or 1.8, whatever it is.
Correct.
Annually.
Yeah,
And do you,
1.9 annually.
Not at once, no, but the total. They're committed to 2 years.
you probably have a feeling for, or has this been presented or talked to with them yet? Okay. So they haven't given you any idea how they feel about rate structure or anything?
Because our costs are so prescribed already, we know how, we have our debt service structure from our loans. We have contracts that have been brought to the board for approval for Jacobs. Those are all known costs associated with Pure Water Soquel. Then there were the chemical costs, power costs, and then the transmission costs. So when Leslie did a back of the envelope cost analysis about a year and a half ago, it was plus or minus about $8,500 an acre foot. So we already knew that it was in this ballpark. So when Raftelis came forward and presented this, it was of no surprise. And then obviously, of course, I'm sure that the city does have some considerations or preferences associated with the different options. Even our finance department had said, from a financial standpoint, more certainty in what we're getting helps with knowing how to plan for our budget. The variable one does leave some, I think, scrutiny or discretion for setting rates, because we will have to assume, just like we do now, how much water do we forecast that will sell, and then that sets the rate or rate increases. On a take or pay, you just know that number, so you can plug in what it is. When you don't know the number, you have to guess a little bit.
If you're letting Leslie choose, she's going to go with take or pay.
Sorry, Leslie.
What did she say?
But I realize that,
If you're the city, you'd probably like to have the option.
right.
Yeah, so what you're saying is if it was all variable, it would be 8,500 per acre foot.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they could do up to 550. And so your base fee is what you call fixed, lower fixed and higher fixed.
Right.
So we know I'm not going to say it out loud.
I think what's confusing to you, Michelle, is
I'm not
normally
confused.
don't present that as a per acre foot
Yeah, but-
charge. We
No, I'm
normally
not
would have said the
confused.
base fee is 1.9 million.
Yeah, I'm not confused. I know that you came up with this base rate, but what I'm saying is it's even variable, depending on what you want to count.
Well, that's, so
Yes.
the question is, how strong is the justification,
Right.
including debt service and capital expenditures in this structure?
Okay, so
And what difference does it make?
what they did when they did option 2A is they took all of our fixed costs and put them in the base charge, and all of our variable costs went into the volumetric charge. When they did option 2B, they took all of our capital costs,
Only the capital.
only the capital costs, and put them in the base fee. And the operating costs,
That's debt service.
That
debt
is the
service,
debt.
debt service and capital improvements went into the fixed fee. And then everything else went into, the cost of operating the plant
My
went into
question
the
is, how
volumetric.
justifiable is it to have those as something that's charged?
Yeah, so Prop 26 is what applies in this case and requires that our wholesale water rates be based on reasonable cost. Raftelis has done the support to justify either 2A or 2B under Prop 26. And so it really is a policy consideration for the board between those two. They both, in my opinion, meet the legal requirements.
And it passes the laugh test with Santa Cruz?
Well, we haven't, so we have not talked to them. We haven't talked about that and gotten into details with them, but what we have talked about and what's in the draft agreement is this general concept between fixed, there be some fixed fee representing our fixed costs that would be determined by a third-party rate consultant, and then variable costs, which would be our variable costs.
Yeah, but maybe I'm overly simplistic on this, because I'm certainly overly complicated on other things. But it's a $140 million plant that, although we didn't pay all of it, Tom went to Washington, D.C., and Melanie went to Washington, D.C., and we got it done. So that has an incredible value. And we're another agency like Santa Cruz to try and do it now. Melanie has told me it's twice that or whatever. Yeah. So a screaming deal. is what this is, and it's being neighborly, and it does help our customers. The only question I have is, can the aquifer allow it?
Can I add a little tiny perspective? I was just thinking today that 550 acre feet is 179 million gallons, and that's actually 6% of a full Loch Lomond. So it's this very small little baby step, and the variables in the agreement are changeable. So it's a way to begin a collaboration. That's the way I see it.
I was wondering if you wanted to finish the presentation.
Trying to sing tonight? I hope.
Well, I mean, I just,
Yeah, no, I
they
know.
had more slides.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate actually spending time and just
Sorry about
going
that.
through this. I apologize for a couple of the typos. And when Becca was helping format this, she even said, these two slides are really hard, and rightfully so. I'm really glad that we spent some time to go through that, because the more we talk about it, the more we can also help you understand, and then I think communicate that with the city as we go forward. But again, our intent is to bring this is a policy decision to the board to see how you would like to set this rate. So we do just have a couple more slides if you're ready for that then, Tom. These are more just some other terms in the agreement. So Josh, you want to hit on these?
Just briefly add, so for the O'Neill intertie, the agreement does not require an expansion to hit the 550, but the agreement acknowledges that future improvements, may be helpful. But those improvements would only move forward after appropriate environmental review and an amendment to the agreement. And the costs of developing those, working through that process would be borne by each party, and then the actual cost of the improvements would be handled in the amendment.
So let's say we determine the aquifer can, I'll just pick a number, 900 feet, that it can still be, not have seawater intrusion at 900 feet. Of course, that'll be dependent on the water year, et cetera, et cetera. So if we were to improve the intertie, would that be borne by Santa Cruz or by Soquel Creek or by both? Because right now, there's no water in the near future coming back from Santa Cruz to Soquel Creek. So you could make an argument that it's benefiting Santa Cruz, and Santa Cruz should. I don't know if it's a big.
Yeah, and I looked at that because I thought that question was going to come up. I just want to double check. That would be handled in the amendment. So the cost sharing of the cost of the improvement itself would be handled in that subsequent amendment. And this district could insist that it be a city requirement. That would be the city would need to agree, but that would the future board would have that flexibility.
Gotcha.
I think in the agreement, it does just outline that if we were looking to evaluate or plan for that, there is at least some language in there that says that we would share that kind of as in kind. So each side would pay for that early preliminary costs associated with a potential future expansion.
And the logic behind that, even though it benefits Santa Cruz and doesn't benefit the district.
Are we ever going to need water back?
Are they able to give us water back? They never were able to give us water in the pilot study. Very little.
Mm-hmm.
Director Javi, that's really a policy determination that I would defer to the board. But I would just say that if the district found itself in a situation where it made sense to enter into an agreement to expand the intertide to allow us to transfer more water, presumably we're selling more water, and there would at least be additional revenues associated with that. So I think that could be part of a policy justification for those initial, just preliminary staff costs, not like hard construction or operation.
It's not a big cost, right?
Yeah.
The preliminary.
That's correct.
It's time.
Next slide, please. And then another provision in the agreement just deals with the potential future expansion of the project. The current agreement, does not give either party a right to expand the project. What it does is it sets forth the process for the city to get a right of first refusal to enter into meet and confer negotiations with the district to participate or be part of that potential expansion. The process in the agreement would be that if the district becomes interested or aware of a possibility to expand the project that we would be initiating, we provide the city with notice, and then the city has a 30-day time period to exercise their right of first refusal. If they do that, then there's a 90-day period where the two parties negotiate over the terms of what that would look like. And the district would have an obligation to first negotiate with the city. If they were agreeable to the cost, timeline, specifics of that extension, then we would execute an agreement with the city for them to take over all or a portion of that expanded capacity. If during that 90-day period we're unable to reach negotiations with the city on what that would look like, then we have the ability to move forward with the expansion with whatever third party or ourselves that we initially had proposed.
Clear. So, question, using Leslie's temperature taking, is there any temperature taking with the city on expansion? Have they considered, because Jennifer pointed out that this is just a small percentage of what they need.
I guess, yeah, that's the question, is really what they need. If they really need 550, then that base rate is great. But if they don't really need it, and they really need 200, then that would be,
But what they need during the drought is...
They would probably like a higher number.
Yeah. Well, initially, didn't they say 750 is what they wanted?
Heidi Luckenbach, who's the water director, did come and present their study at the end of the year, which kind of reevaluated and identified what their shortage gap is and kind of portfolios or packages that they would put forth to try to meet or close the gap. So they have the long-term gap that was presented out in 2032, and then they had some interim, I think, goals to meet some of the shortage. That included purchasing water from Soquel Creek Water District, as well as doing a transfer agreement with Scotts Valley Water District. So, and then that, of course, also includes their own ASR projects. In addition to that, they did have other projects that they could look towards to do on their own. Those were larger CIP, including desal and or IPR or direct potable reuse. So there is still the potential to be interested in expansion, and I think that was also our intent when we built it, that it would be expandable, which is why we've done all of the pipelines underground, and we've left footprints at the AWPF site for expansion. But we, again, didn't want to go to that point yet in this agreement. The baby steps, initial term, we're going to work on some water sharing, but that we wanted to make an inclusion in here that expansion is a potential option in the future, and this is how we would do that. Really, it protects us and just explains amendments.
And of course, and I mean, obviously this was a request by the city, and we felt it was reasonable with the process that was laid out. Yeah.
So the gap during a multi-year drought is 10 times this 550 acre feet. So, or more. So, yeah. Well, I don't know enough about that. I'd like to learn more about that.
They've been developing some of it.
5 times.
Okay.
are we supposed to have a motion?
I don't know the status of their current. They had a number of different possibilities. We don't know all the stuff that they've been doing. We need an update.
So we're just providing input. So I provided my highly charged input.
Thank you.
I think we have just this like conclusion slide, which is mostly just about seeking feedback on these key components. So again, in terms of the term, is a 2-year initial term acceptable to go forward in this agreement? It was, added midway through. Originally, this did not have a 2-year initial term, and that is now included. And staff feels comfortable with moving forward with this, but we wanted to get feedback from the board on that.
You want individual feedback?
Please.
So I'll go first. I'm definitely in favor of the 2-year term. I think that's acceptable. I'd love to see not a sunset, but an evergreen. And I'm thinking the 2A or 2B needs to be explored more.
Next.
Well, I would like to explore a 5-year test term, I guess. The 2-year is acceptable, but 5-year, I would think that would be encompass a wider span of how it's going to work. And I'm nervous about the sunset date of 2075. I suppose there has to be one. I don't know why we even do. Yes, so it's just, I would be, prefer to not have an end of the agreement. I think the termination notice, I'm satisfied with the termination. I thought that was pretty well organized. And the sticking point is the monitoring and mitigating of groundwater conditions, and seeing if in the chance that we might have adverse information coming in, from our data collection, we need some way of dealing with that in an orderly way. Yes, not shut him off, not continuing business as usual. So, and I trust you and Raf tell us about the variable pricing, because it's the only fair way to do that. And gosh, the intertie, I would defer that to Tom. No, I don't have any opinion on the intertie. I just don't know enough.
Let me go last.
So I'll take the easiest one first, pricing model, variable. Intertie authority, I don't even know what that means. So I can't say either way on that. Let's see. The term, assuming that the aquifer can allow it, my win-win-win is aquifer first, our customers second, and Santa Cruz third. I'd like to see everybody win. But so 2-year, although I like Carla's idea of a longer term so that you can actually experience more hydrologic variability, which could, but I'm not strong on that. And there's so many off-ramps on this that I'm comfortable with longer terms. And then, let's see, the monitoring and mitigation and groundwater conditions, we didn't get into that really. So I'd like to see what I would like to see, here we are over 2 hours and the brain is going a little mushy. I like to see like little bite-sized chunks of this come back to the board. And one of those would be the monitoring and mitigation of groundwater conditions. And then I have 3 other things that I'd like to see. One is, and Melanie and I have talked about this, about how there's a source water agreement now for 30 years. I'd like to see any agreement that we do So they're getting water. I'd like to see that added onto that 30 years. If it's a 2-year, it's 32. If it's a 5-year, it's 35, because they're benefiting from it. And this comes more from my discussion with Brent yesterday about restricting district and city customers during water scarcity times, whether it's a stage or whatnot. That's a little hard for me to swallow. We're being good neighbors, and we're being very, very good neighbors if our customers decrease their water use so that the city has water. So that doesn't quite sit well with me to ask our customers to restrict their water use so that the city customers could have water. So without just in general, it's like if there's, let's say there's 10 gallons of water, and we're going to give the city 2 gallons, and we ask our customers to restrict a gallon, it doesn't sit right with me that we're giving 2 gallons to the city, or selling it, not giving it. I think that goes, and that our customers have to restrict their water. So that's just the way I think about it, Rochelle. I know you, from the look on your face, you don't agree.
Oh, I just have another twist on it.
Okay. And then the other thing that I have here that was, I don't really understand the city's plans and agreements with Scotts Valley, and I think that affects this agreement. And just for perspective, and I'd like to see a presentation to the board about that. And then one last thing is a big ask, is I'd like Cameron Tana to come to the board and give his opinions on how the water transfer will affect the aquifer health. And in particular, I'd like to learn whether the modeling he's done has looked at drought periods. Doesn't look like we're going to have one this year, but I just want to, thinking more long-term, make sure I understand how the aquifer, on the little data we have, how confident are we that we understand the system and that we can enter into an agreement where, and I hope we can, because you can ask my neighbors, Rochelle. I'm a good neighbor. And it totally makes sense to think regionally. And that's the other reason I want to see what Scotts Valley is doing with the city, just to get the full regional picture. Yeah, so that was a lot, more than you asked for.
That was a lot, but I wrote it down. I think
Okay.
Joe did as well.
Michelle?
We're videotaped here, too.
Oh, my goodness. Only if it's working.
Yeah, right.
He was talking about, let's say we ask our customers to reduce their use by 5%. I think the city should be reducing by 5% in order to get water from us. I mean, I know this last drought drove me crazy. Different jurisdictions were requesting more or less percent, and I'm thinking, where did they get the water that they could just let them, do 1% or 2%? I think we need to work together to come up with a conservation effort that's consistent throughout, at least both of our jurisdictions. I can't force it on anybody else. So that's the look on my face.
Can I ask a quick clarifying question, Rochelle? If we were to ask our customers to reduce water usage for whatever reason, and then we ask the city also to ask their customers to reduce, could they just not take water from us that year?
That's possible. We could look at reducing the amount that we'd give them.
as, you know,
By that.
I mean, they would have the option to either
was getting-
ask their customers to reduce or not take water from us.
Right.
I think, you know, and
And then we can't charge them the base fee if we're refusing to give them water, right?
right, there is a provision. I think a lot of the shortage declarations, as we kind of identified, there's a lot of different triggers. There could be the drought, right, where there's no rainfall that has impacted the city because they're 100%, you know, 90% rainfall dependent, and that definitely has the effect on them. And so if we're all restricting and we're restricting them when they need the water, I think we've been expressed that's challenge, right? Because that's what they're trying to do is fill that gap. There's also the times where we may call a shortage because we have well failures. And we definitely, like what Nick had mentioned, we might have multiple well failures that go out, and we do need all of our customers to use less. And we would really hope that they could say, use less because our well field, which is the well field that they're depending on, which is our well field, is got this emergency and we need to do repairs. There's also shortages related to if the Santa Cruz wastewater treatment plant has a shortfall or has limitations in providing us source water. That's something that we need to think about because that impacts Pure Water Soquel, and we would like to talk to them about it. I think that the way, and I'm looking at Brent because Brent will be listening and trying to address these, is that there are provisions in the agreement that talks about an equivalent restriction to the city. That if we're going to impart that on the customers, that we would impart that on the city. And again, I think the question or the comment from Director Jaffe would be if we're asking our customers to reduce, or we notice that we have a shortfall, I think a question might come, you know, at the negotiations table of, oh, well, the customer shortfall is about 500 acre feet. We're just going to restrict the city, and then we don't have to call a shortfall because we just made up that amount. How do we address that? Because that might be something they may want to know how that would work and just have contract clarity. And so,
And who pays?
Right,
Who they pay in
right.
those circumstances, especially if we're, you know, giving them the service, you know, charge base rate based on just being able to get it. So, I mean, I'm probably you know, I think what it is these examples are real simple. And there's more to it than that.
You good?
So, not,
What-
um,
Okay,
I know you're last.
I'm waiting.
Good. Thank you. So, Melanie, would you consider adding undesirable
It's on
effects?
there. It's part of Article 12, I think.
Well, right.
I think
But
you
when
want to make
talked
sure
about reasons for why we would not be able to provide water, but it's part of Article 12, so you just didn't mention it.
right.
I was-
I'll add that.
One of the things I was going to say is I think we'd all feel more comfortable if we saw some of those detail on those off ramps, because I think our biggest concern, and mine is just the same thing. I don't want to see something adverse happen to the aquifer after all this work, you know. And so I think I'm guessing, and just from the reading and from talking to you guys before, just that there are protections for that. And I think one of them was just if a representative monitoring point located in the district service area and used for monitoring compliance has undesirable results, then the relief in Article 12 would be triggered. So those are the kind of things I think maybe we need a little more detail on to feel comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
I
And I think-
appreciate that microdosing of maybe that be a single topic associated
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I mean, as far as the term, I kind of thought the 2-year term would be a good initial evaluation time, because by then we will have, pretty soon we'll have a whole year's worth of data on what the aquifer is doing with Pure Water Soquel and sending fairly close amount of water to the city of Santa Cruz. And if we have 2 years of that data, that'll help. Granted, it won't reflect every possible drought or rainy season, but it will, within our district, which is a longer term outlook, it should give us a better idea. So I guess,
Well, our most previous exchange was 5-year periods.
right.
And it was to give a chance to have it play out as much as possible before any final decisions are made, which is why.
Yeah.
I did the 5.
But there's not final decisions here.
Right. And so anyway, my other things where I just think I am in favor of also the 2B, not to be,
To be.
no, sorry. No, yes, 2B. Okay, that's enough from me.
I didn't weigh in on the sunset date. There's so many off-ramps. I don't know that we need a sunset date. I mean, I like round numbers like 2,100 if you're going to do a sunset date. It's 75 or 2075. You're right. It's 50 years. Yeah. Anyway, I don't see the necessity of a sunset date either. If considering that at any point either party can say, "Hey, it's not working."
Well, the city has a sunset on providing source water for,
Oh,
right?
So maybe they should match.
No, it wouldn't extend that, depending on how
Yeah.
it works. But
Yeah.
there is a, 30-year sunset.
35. 35.
So at very least they should match if there's a sunset. Because we could be in a position where we have to give water and we don't have the source water.
Yeah.
that would be bad.
Exactly.
That would be bad.
Exactly.
All right, so
We have off-ramps.
do we think we have enough
I
for
think
tonight?
so.
Okay.
And look forward to
Thank you, guys. And thank you
next-
for all the work and, getting to this point, because I still think it's a good goal. So shall we move on to item 6.4. So this is the employment contract that,
Oh, yeah.
so it's maybe things we already know about, but
Taj, can you check the
final
air
word.
condition?
Yeah.
Okay.
David,
Yes.
Good evening. I have no slides, so I just wanted to go right forward and say that the purpose of this item is really administrative. We want to bring back the updated MOU as well as updated job descriptions for each of the field and office employees that were part of these negotiations. Back on July 21st, we brought forward the tentative agreement for a successor agreement with SEIU. And so this is now bringing back the full MOU with the red lines as well as a clean copy of the MOU. And I will say it's part of the request in terms of the recommended action approving the resolution 2616. I'd ask that you also give us direction so that we could also clean up any non-substantive clerical matters in the clean copy. There's some formatting and some typos that were in there. I just want to make sure that the clean copy we provided you might require us to do some additional edits, but all of the terms of the agreement are in place. And if there was something that we needed to bring back, we'd do so in a form where we would isolate a section that would have red lines and changes. Okay. If you have any questions on any of the documents I provided, I'm happy to answer them, but that's my presentation.
no public comment, I see. Just want to make sure I don't forget to look. Somebody could have slipped in. Any questions from board members? When I look at the extent of all of that, congratulations, David, and to all the negotiating people, because that's a lot of work. I mean, and to have people come out of it feeling like it was fair, in the end, is a good accomplishment. So
If I could, I'd also like to thank Nick
I
and
was looking
also
that way too.
Ryan Kenny from Finance and Business Service, Emma Western, who's not with us. She helped at the very beginning before she went on leave, and Leslie, of course, for helping with all of the costing and working on this. So it's been a group effort, and we're thankful to move forward.
Exactly. So any motions on?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the.
I second.
All right. Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have to resolution it?
I don't think so.
It is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Right. You're right. Good point.
Yeah,
Roll call vote.
Motion's roll
Adopted.
call is not required for adoption of a
Oh, it isn't?
resolution. Yeah, as long as everyone's in person, so.
Okay. Well, then let's do that again. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you very much.
Awesome.
That was something we used to before have in the motion by roll call, and then Josh informed us that it
Said,
wasn't
okay.
necessary.
It's only when somebody's not here.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's right. What a good memory. You are so on top of it.
You can go. You don't have to be here.
Okay, so I'm going to guess that you have a specific thing you're looking at.
Very specific thing.
Okay.
Good guess.
One that says Director Jaffe and is in red.
You got it.
Okay.
Okay. Let me get to the page. So it's page 163 of 512.
And I have it on the screen as well, if that's
Yeah.
helpful.
I see that it was added, and I was going to ask first to comment that this I'd like to see also in addition to the recognizing our customers, I would like to see a statement of like a snapshot of where we're at in our transition in the aquifer for now that we have Soquel, Pure Water Soquel. So just acknowledging the critical overdraft and historical critical overdraft, and basically we're not out of the woods yet. So kind of both a thank you and an informational thing. And then I was wondering when that you don't have to tell me this board meeting, but maybe next one it could list when you expect to have that come to us. And that is it. And I guess do we have to make a motion on that one to approve just that one, or?
No,
There's
this
report.
is
It's a
staff report,
report.
so just a
Yeah.
direction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Direction.
Okay,
given.
and Tom, can I ask a very quick question?
Yes.
During the public comment, it went by so fast that I forgot I have 3 announcements. Should I do it now, or should I just do it off the record later with you guys?
It's fine with me.
Yeah, I'd recommend just now, if you're okay with that, President Leahy.
I am.
Okay, really quick, I'm sure you're aware of the new digital twin of the lower Pajaro Valley River that UC Berkeley's working on. So I've contacted all the scientists and all of the grad students, and I'm going to be taking a tour and being involved with that. So I will keep you up on that. Also, the flood control is I'm on the board for the Zone 5, which, as you know, is not Pajaro Valley, but it's Capitola City of Santa Cruz. And they're having a special meeting next Tuesday, but I'm going to be at the reuse conference with you guys. And so I just wanted to let you know there's not going to have any representative from us at that meeting. And then thirdly, I'm going to be in London and Scotland in September. I won't be here at that meeting. Thank you.
15th,
Not going to call.
15th.
Yes.
I've called in from Italy before.
You've called in from other places.
Yeah, I know.
So have I. All right, so meeting adjourning to closed session,
Yes.
correct?
Thank you.
All right. Oh, my.